We're talking tourism now, we're talking how it could change the economy, and my colleague Fifi Peters has delved into some of the tourist accommodation data that was released just a short while ago by Stats SA. Fifi.
Yeah, Stats SA coming out with tourist accommodation numbers. Now, you know, the tourism sector is a key sector for South Africa's economy. Government wants it to help the economy create jobs and grow, and it is one of the bright spots currently right now. But if I just talk to those numbers on the screen. So, for the month of March, total income in the tourist accommodation sector totaled 4 billion rand, and that is up 1.9% from February. I mean, these numbers are historic, as you can see, but this is the latest figure for March as it is. In terms of the sectors or the various types of accommodation that played the biggest role in the increase, you can see that caravan parks coming in there at number 1. Caravan parks and camping sites growing some 24% month on month, and then followed closely by guest houses, which were up 10.7%, as you can see. Not much movement in the hotel space, but you can see that even though growth in income from the hotel sector is flat month on month, it still plays, or it plays the biggest role, the biggest part in the total income number there at 3.1 billion rand for the month of March. I must say, from this period, Chris, from this March 2018 to March 2019, so year on year, we do have an increase still in total tourist accommodation, but for the first quarter we are slightly lower, which does raise a bit of concerns as to whether, you know, government will be able to, you know, make good on its will and achieve its very ambitious target of increasing the number of arrivals into South Africa. By 2030, they're looking at 21 million. We're currently at around 10 million.
Well, hold that thought there. You're bound to have some questions for our next guest, who is Unathi Sonwabile Henama, a lecturer in the Department of Tourism Management at Tshwane University of Technology. Now, one of the things that strikes me about this is that these figures, I understand, don't include Airbnb, yes, which is big right now and a big factor in this entire industry. But surely that's a bit of a failing on the parts of Stats SA.
Yes, we must measure what matters. The 5.3% growth on accommodation indicates that players such as Airbnb, Lekker Slap, are taking a sizable big chunk of the tourism sector. Hence, you find the hotel industry has been engaging the Ministry of Tourism to come with this Tourism Amendment Act to regulate short-term rentals, because they've been getting a big club, a wake-up club, fortunately, for them to evolve their business systems.
I mean, in terms of government's target, Unathi, to really make the tourism sector play a bigger role in creating jobs for South Africa's economy and growing the economy, how do you think we were moving currently? I mean, that ambitious goal to create 21 million, or to attract 21 million visitors by 2030, are we on track?
I don't believe we can achieve it, because we must firstly measure what went wrong in the past. Because in the year 2020, in the NTSS, we said we must have 20 million visitors by the year 2020. Then we've moved to 10 years later. But where's the analysis? Because we must diagnose the right things and be able to create the right things. On the 12th of January, the president in Durban spoke about the whole of government approach to tourism. And that then empowers government to say, let's look at each and every SOE and say, how do we improve tourism from that? Each and every government department, what is your impact on tourism? Then how can we give you a tourism mandate to ensure that it is much easier for tourists to come to destination South Africa? Because we must always understand, the tourism sector is a highly, highly competitive sector.
Sure.
Everybody wants it. And we are at the bottom of Africa. Geographically, we're at a disadvantage. We must make it easy for people to come here, and people must come in easy, go out. And most importantly, service excellence is important.
And just mentioning something else about the Airbnb story, I see that government's looking to regulate it now. Surely, couldn't that nip it in the bud a bit, do you think?
I don't believe government has got the capacity to regulate it.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't even deliver school books on time.
But it's no different from what's happening elsewhere in the world, you know. I mean, the argument is that you have to regulate Airbnb because your hotels and your traditional guest houses, everybody meets certain checks and balances. And if you don't regulate Airbnb, then the playing field is not level.
I'm all for regulation, but the question is, does the state have the capacity? Because in the past 25 years, we've been saying we've got excellent policies, but implementation. So the question is, we must be careful of the unintended consequences of creating regulations that we are unable to implement.
So tourism supports something like 200,000 jobs in this country alone. I mean, when we were talking during the elections the other week, a lot of analysts were saying to me, they were saying, like, listen, I'd say, what about quick wins in the economy? They say tourism. If we get rid of the visa regulations, we make it easier for people to come here, we make it cheaper for people to come here, it will transform this economy in a very short space of time.
Yes, but the most fundamental challenge we face in South Africa, besides the visa issue, the travel to South Africa, is the issue of safety and security. And when I speak safety, I'm not speaking the safety of tourists. I'm firstly speaking the safety of the local, because that would necessarily translate into safety for the tourist. So we must make it safe for me and you to open a business. You know, safety must become a dividend shared and benefited by each and every South African. And then that will translate to tourists. What is important is that we must ensure that there is shared growth. And the crime rate has forced people to go to Soweto, spend less than 20 rands, and come back to Sandton and spend the majority of the income there. We actually want tourism to be much more democratic. Everybody must benefit, because that is important to ensure that this sector does not become a resource curse like mining, where mining only benefited a few without benefiting the major bulk of the population. We don't want that for the tourism sector.
I mean, Unathi, how would you say Brand South Africa is being perceived right now? We've just come from the elections, as Chris has said. You know, how a country is perceived, certainly outside of the weather and the animals and everything that people come here for, is a big tourism driver. Do you think that, you know, like following our elections with now President Ramaphosa, we could get a boost to the number of people wanting to come visit South Africa?
Yes, I mean, there's a great compelling story that South Africa is setting out, that we are a mature democracy, we've got free and fair elections. There is, compared to other countries in Africa, we don't have post-election violence, but we must then use that as an opportunity to say we are going to be having an inauguration. We are inviting all people from all over the world to come to South Africa and come and consume, I mean, the cradle of humankind, where humankind comes from. And
but even though I mean, the CEO of Brand South Africa being suspended, we still don't know why. We're in the dark. I mean, things like that. Do they rattle tourists?
I believe there is enough concerted knowledge within SA Tourism, even though the CEO is suspended, to still run it. I mean, the
SA Tourism, yeah, that's correct.
The COO has been in this position before, you know. So I believe there's enough institutional memory to ensure that things still go on. I mean, the tourism endeavor did become successful, even though the CEO was not there. And obviously we want strong people, but also strong institutions. I think that's what we obviously desire.
And what's the situation with the capacity for accommodation? I remember after the 2010 World Cup, a lot of capacity was built, and I know a lot of it was empty in the years that followed. I mean, is that righted itself? Is the market righted itself now?
I think that the market is righting itself right now, but interestingly enough, Airbnb was formed out of looking at what happened during the World Cup during March. So actually March, and it's interesting that it has actually formed Airbnb to the success today. But I believe the most fundamental issue is that nobody must ever start a business without having proper knowledge of the market. So market research is very, very imperative. And to actually also know which type of markets you're going to serve. Because the whole thing, the whole jubilation of 2010 is that I was going to open a guest house, then everyone's going to come. But it never happened.
Sure. What about the fact that currently, as we were discussing off air, we don't know who the tourism minister is, right?
Well, we won't until next week.
Until next week. So, I mean, your opinion, any guesses there?
Well, who do you want? That's probably a better way of putting it.
Who I want is very important, but I think the most important thing we require somebody who's passionate. You know, when passion can drive a lot of things in this country. And I believe we've got somebody who's a minister who's passionate and then who's looking at this mandate to say, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to create a lasting legacy for myself as an individual, as a politician, and also for the industry. I believe if we have a person like that, we can succeed.
Am I just being cynical, though? Sometimes I think, as much as I have a lot of respect for the previous ministers, perhaps it's not taken quite as seriously as mining or industry is, when it should be, in my view. Yes,
maybe that's because maybe of the politics of the ANC, where we find that they must have a strong labor union in COSATU, and then you find the strong labor union in the tourism sector is in FEDUSA, which is another federation. So that are those politics. Remember again, we're speaking about consumption, not production. Mining, tourism consumption. So now the dynamics are quite different on labor relations.
Well, I think, I mean, it remains to be seen just how the tourism sector is able to do for the rest of the month. But I'm wondering things like Cyclone Idai. the flooding in Durban. To what extent do you think that this could also be a bit of a dampener on bringing people to South Africa?
SA Tourism and National Department of Tourism must by now be having a crisis management plan. Whenever natural disasters occur, for them to say, we are open for business, we are managing this. I mean, remember when that Mexico oil spill by BP?
Sure.
It had to be Obama and his daughters that had to go and swim in the Gulf of Mexico for tourism in Florida to pick up again. So we have to understand that tourism and other natural disasters are the new normal. So we must have a crisis management plan for such.
Well, thank you very much, my colleague Fifi Peters and Unathi Sonwabile Henama, a lecturer at the Department of Tourism Management at Tshwane University of Technology.